Good afternoon. This is Ed Mills from the Colorado Broadband office. We're welcome that you've joined us today for the November Lunch and Learn. Today, we're going to feature Tim Miles, Technology Director of Steamboat Springs and South Routt School Districts. He's going to discuss how Steamboat Schools has become involved in 3 broadband consortia to better give them internet connectivity, as well as their neighbors and others that are on that same broadband path, and peers throughout Colorado. And that's why we've asked him to share with us today. He came highly recommended from Nate Wolowitz, who works on a project with the Northwest COG called Project THOR, one of the things that he'll be talking about today. So the 3 projects are the Northwest Colorado Broadband, or NCB, and as I just mentioned, Project THOR with the Northwest Colorado Council of Governments, and also the Colorado Education Broadband Coalition, or it's also known as CEBC. Tim Miles has worked in education for 20 years, 16 of which have been with the Steamboat Springs School District. He's a member of the Colorado Association of School Executives, CASE, and he has served as president of Colorado Association of Leaders in Education Technology. Tim, we are so happy that you're with us, and please teach us everything that you're doing there in the Steamboat and South Routt school districts.
Hi, everybody. Like Ed said, I'm Tim Miles. I've been in education for quite a while. I live up in Northwest Colorado, Steamboat Springs area, which encompasses which is in Routt County, very northwest corner. Moffett is to the west, and then you're in different states to the north and to the west. I work for schools up here, and we're a small school district, 2,500 kids. Now we're maybe 26+ kids up here in this area. The school district to the west, Hayden, they're at maybe 300 and some kids, 400 and some kids, I think. And then to the south is South Routt School District. And I also am the technology director for there, which is Oak Creek, Yampa, Phippsburg. They're just a little over 300 kids. So there's about 100 kids difference between them and Hayden. With schools, though, we have the same needs as any school anywhere else. Our kids require access to internet. And so way back when, and you'll see a little presentation here, we didn't have that great of internet, and it was very costly. So the first thing I did was we formed Northwest Colorado Broadband. And why did we do that? So what I noticed was the incumbent, the big incumbents that served our areas way back in 2006 through 2012 timeframe. They would constantly come up to the city and have meetings with the city and the county and bypass the school district. But I was the one spending all the money with them, and not the city and the county. The broadband needs of the city and county were kind of limited. I was consuming or wanting a lot more, and but I didn't get the attention from them, and I found that kind of odd. And so then in 2012, we had a major internet outage up in our area. It was on Halloween night. It's a very big day for Steamboat Springs, a really big day for a lot of, they close down the streets, everybody walks and eats, and the kids are all collecting candy, and the adults are all drinking and spending money and drinking food and eating food. And they lost all that revenue because the internet was down and they couldn't get credit cards to work. 911 wasn't working, all that kind of stuff. So what do we do? The incumbent wasn't giving us any attention. I always had money, but I had no one to give it to because they wouldn't upgrade our service or even talk to me to try to upgrade our service. So we formed Northwest Colorado Broadband based upon that Halloween outage. I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll go from there. Share. Okay, I see what you're seeing there now. So a community fiber project, Northwest Colorado Broadband. It is comprised of the Chamber, the City of Steamboat Springs, Routt County, Steamboat Springs School District, Yampa Valley Electric Association. And at the time we started this, Colorado Mountain College, and they started out with us, but they didn't continue with us. They're strictly just a customer now. They're not part of the Northwest Colorado Broadband. And did I say Yampa Valley Medical? I believe that's not on this slide. It isn't. So Yampa Valley Medical Center, which is now UC Health. up here. So there's 5 members, and notice this is the important one, the chamber. So back in 2012, when we formed this, we were under Senate Bill 152, and that says any local government can't get in the broadband business. So what we did was we formed a Northwest Colorado Broadband, where we came together as one entity, and the chamber, we formed a nonprofit, and the chamber was the head of that nonprofit. And that got us around Senate Bill 152 until we could get it voted out over the next few years. And that allowed us to build our own network, bring in a middle mile connection, and start to serve ourselves. And so what we ended up doing, us 5 entities, was we built fiber, brought it all the way from Denver through a school district scenario where it used to be called EagleNet. I was able to acquire fiber and go west out of town. And so with that west connection out of town, even though the incumbent had fiber that went west of the town, they wouldn't turn it on for anybody but their own services. We were able to use that connection going west that I acquired through the school district. And we made a ring all the way from Denver west and all the way back to Denver. And it was difficult. It wasn't easy for us who aren't used to working together to work together. There was a lot of hesitancy at the beginning as to why we're doing this and really should we be doing this. And it proved that it was very, very beneficial going forward. And I think this next slide is the network that we built. So in 2016, so in 2012, we formed the consortium. And in 2012, I did get that redundant link outside of Steamboat Springs with a couple of different connections that the school district had. One on the incumbent going east to Denver, and one going west, a different carrier out of town. And we were able to merge those 2 networks together and make a redundant loop. And then in 2016, we went forward with actually building fiber throughout the town and actually connecting all of the actual entities and all the entities buildings. And like I said, it was the info, which is the hospital, the Electric Association, Colorado Mountain College at the time, the city of Steamboat Springs and Routt County and the school district. And this is the fiber connection that goes through town. And we ended up having a 10 gig connection. And at the time, 2012 era, CenturyLink had a line coming in town and said that this town would never get any more than 1 gig. And in 2016, we upgraded that to a 10 gig. And in 2000, what are we now, 21, we outgrew that 10 gig 3 years ago. So 21, that was 18. In 2018, we had to start doing something different. And that'll be the next project I'll talk about here in a second. Very, very successful. Very important story here is that City of Steamboat Springs has always hosted in the spring a cattle sale. It has since moved out of Steamboat Springs because it outgrew our town. We couldn't host a large enough. We didn't have a large enough venue to host all the people that wanted to come and sell their cows here. So I want to say $10 million plus of cattle sales would happen in a week in Steamboat Springs. And Highway 9 from Silverthorne that comes up all the way from Silverthorne, they were widening it. And they put the big fences up to keep the deer off the highway. It was a big CDOT project. They cut the fiber 3 or 4 times at least during that project, trying to put the fence in. They would drill right through with the fence post, right through that fiber. Same very scenario that happened in Halloween back in 2012 that started us to work together and try to solve our own destiny by creating this network out of Denver, was they drilled through that fiber line. Nobody was on this network that you see right here in front of you, except for the us anchor institutions, the city, the county, and the hospital, the people that built it. They lost an entire day's worth of cattle sales. And how that cattle sales worked was there'd be a whole bunch of people that would come in person and fill the little conference center that we had here. And then there would be even more that worldwide that would come online, and they would buy the cattle via video. In that week, like I said, they sell 10 million plus of cattle in that week. They lost a day plus because of a fiber outage. And again, they were all being served by the incumbent, not by this network that I built. And they lost many millions of dollars in that one day of cattle sales. And it just proved that this network was successful because we didn't go down. It was just unfortunate that the resorts and the other entities hadn't connected to this network yet. And it proved itself right out of the gate how important this network that we built was. So after that, NCB still exists. We started in 2012. Now it's 2021. We still exist. And now, with my experience in building network, I got approached by some other school districts throughout the state. And could I help them? And could we do something similar for the schools? And so what I learned was that rent times many is what CenturyLink or the incumbent wants. And so they come into an area with a fiber line, then they go out of the area, then they go to each house or each customer with different spurs off of that. Every single spur off of that, every customer pays rent on that line that brings that internet into the town. And so what I learned through the NCB was that rent times one instead of rent times many. And so us entities went together and we were able to all pay for that fiber line as a single customer. Therefore, it wasn't rent times one. And so therefore your cost drastically decrease because you rent that line all the way from Denver and then you share all that one single cost with all the entities that are on it. And internet is the same no matter what kind of entity you are. Library, hospital, police station, house, anybody. It's identical services. So you're able to do that. So through that model of rent times one, instead of rent times many, we formed CEBC. It's Colorado Education Broadband Coalition. And the founders of that are right here on my screen. Arlene Salyard, she's the Director of Special Reports for the Northeast BOCES. BOCES is a regional network of school districts. So up here in the west, we have Northwest Colorado, Northwest BOCES. The east, there's Northeast BOCES. Jared is the East Central BOCES. And then there's various other ones just like that throughout the state. And they could have as many as, I can't remember how many BOCES there are. I should know that answer, but I don't know that answer to that. I know there's 176 school districts in Colorado, and there's maybe 30 BOCES out of those. And so you just divide those up. And so we went together as BOCES, so 3 BOCES. And what we ended up doing was same sort of scenario back in 2008 when we started talking about this. Folks within the school districts were paying $400+ per megabyte. And they couldn't afford the megabits and the megabytes that they needed because they just couldn't afford it. It was too darn expensive, but they had the need. They just couldn't afford to pay for the need. So back in 2016, based upon the experience of setting up the NCB, what we did is we joined all those school districts together and we went to bid as 30+ school districts, but we went to bid as one single district, one single entity, and that was called CEBC. And what that did was, if you noticed, back in 2008, a lot of these school districts were only getting one bid when they would go out to bid and ask for more internet connectivity. They'd get a single bid or they wouldn't get anybody to bid their district. These are districts that are maybe, 400 kids or less in size, many of them. I was by far the biggest district in that, and I'm not big. I'm on 2,500 kids at that time. But in 2016, some of the districts were still paying $87 per meg. And in Denver, that going rate at 20 was under $10, it was around $10 a meg. And all these other districts were paying, some were up 400 and 87 in between there, somewhere in between there. So then in 2017, we were ready. So from 2008 to 2016, we were trying to determine what we were going to do there. And in 2017, we actually went to bid. And what ended up happening when we went to bid as a single entity, exact same scenario, same wires in the ground, same everything. We just went to bid as a single customer. We took prices in the state of Colorado all the way down from anywhere in the $87 range. We took up everybody down to 82 cents a meg. Everybody down to 82 cents a meg. That's 3 hours from Denver to the east, 3 hours Denver to the northwest, and that's what we got. Denver prices at the time were above $1 in for per meg, so we actually beat the Denver prices because we went to bid as one entity, and where our demands were so huge, we attracted a customer or an ISP provider from the south. They moved into Colorado, and that year right there, 2017, no matter who you are listening here, we changed the pricing for internet in the entire state by doing this single bid as a single customer, because we all of a sudden started consuming 30 some gigs of internet as a single customer. and everybody had to start competing to not lose their school districts and their current customers. In 2018, we went back out to bid. We got anywhere from 82 cents to $1.20. Some districts a little bit harder and yet harder to reach. So it's still a darn good price. I know that some of the bigger Denver districts, the Jeffco's and the Denver Public Schools, Boulder Valley schools that are 30,000 plus kids, I know for a fact they use our bid to renegotiate their bids. And so it was a win-win for everybody all around. And we're still going for that. And so now 5 years later, 2022, this same original group is going back out to bid. And anybody that we've added in between, we've added some school districts in 18, 19, 20, 21. We're all going back out to bid. So this year is going to be a very big bid. Again, we hope to be going to the market with 100 gigs of internet as a single customer. And the beauty there is the school district saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. The kids got what they want. The school district can afford what they need. And we hope to do that again. We hope to change the market again by going out to bid with 100 plus gigs of internet for CEBC. So that's ongoing. So the third broadband consortium I want to talk to you about is THOR. THOR is identical to the NCB, which we did here in the Steamboat area with those five anchor institutions. THOR is identical to it, but it's more regionalized. So that THOR network that I built, there's Steamboat Springs. We were already going this direction right here. We were already making this connection all the way back to Denver, a big loop. So it made sense to then start connecting the cities and the towns that were on that loop, and all of us together pay for that rent times once instead of rent times many. This is a unique model in the entire United States. I'm not certain any other entity is doing this. Is they asked the NCB to do this, but I already have a day job. So we didn't, I just couldn't take the capacity on doing yet another broadband consortium, and the NCB, I'm taking on the role of administration of doing this network. So we partner with Northwest Colorado Council of Governments, and Northwest Colorado Governments is the exact same thing as a BOCES for schools, but it's for cities and counties. So they have a regionalized group of cities and counties that come together and do collaborative things. And in our region, it's called the Northwest Colorado Council of Governments. And so Rio Blanco had done fiber to the county, fiber to the residents in every county. So every county address had a fiber to it. They did that on their own dime. Good for them. Very successful. So they already had a relatively big pop that went into Meeker. Like I said, I didn't go all the way to Meeker. I had originally cut down right from Craig, basically to Glenwood Springs, and then back around that way. So it made sense to join Meeker. So Moffat County, Meeker, Summit County, Pitkin County, the city of Breckenridge, the town of Eagle, the NCB, Northwest, or no, not Northwest, Middle Park Medical, Clear Creek County, and there might be one other one in there I'm missing. I think there's 10 of us together. Same sort of logic. We all went together. We went to bid. We had someone build us a network, and these are all lease lines. So it might be an incumbent line from here. I know we have dark fiber on CDOT that goes down I-70. We have fiber that goes through the Glenwood Canyon, through a different one. We've since from this map have updated it, and I don't have that latest update, is we leave Moffat County out of Meeker, and we go through a different provider all the way to Salt Lake City, and that gives us yet another redundant loop to the north that comes all the way back into Denver from the north, as well as our redundant loop that comes in from the south back to Denver. And this ring that you're looking at right here is a 200 gig ring all the way around, and we can turn the dial and go up to 400 gigs. And each town is just like the NCB is a meet me center. So all these little green dots are meet me centers, and people and businesses can connect to those meet me centers. All the regions except for this area up here in Routt County, NCB, when we formed, we decided at that time we did not want to be in the broadband business. We wanted to have good redundant broadband brought into our area, and then let those who do the business do their business and just use our redundant connection. So our current ISPs connect to our network, and they go and they sell it to the customers. In a lot of these other areas, like the Eagle and the Pitkin County, Meeker, Glenwood Springs, Summit County, they're selling directly to the customers if they choose. So they'll go out and knock on the doors and sell directly to ISPs and or businesses if they choose to connect to them directly and bypass. So they're actually in the broadband business in some of those cases. Brand new, we got 3 years old, Project THOR. So we're still elementary stage. We're still learning from some things we didn't do right or we should have done different. But highly successful yet again. We have a 200 gig ring out of Denver. We had a brief little outage of a router in Denver, but not because of a physical outage of the network here not that long ago. However, with this network you're looking at right here, it's helped the state of Colorado. It's helped other towns that aren't members of this. The wildfires in Granby and Estes Park area last year and the years before took out the incumbents lines. We were able to MacGyver some stuff together and get those towns connected off of our network. So thanks to our network, we were able to keep those towns alive. Same as the mudslides in Glenwood Springs this year. It cut off the canyon. That's why we made that connection that went north through Salt Lake City to keep that live redundant route to the north alive. And because of that route, we were able to come in both sides of the Glenwood Canyon and feed the state of Colorado's network and some other entities that also were on that fiber as well from multiple directions, and then come back out and go all the way to Salt Lake City and come back around or come back down to the south and connect those networks. So because of this network right here, it saved a lot of people with these natural disasters. It's like, again, it's proven itself very successful, and it's cheaper than anybody doing this on their own. Nobody on their own could afford to do this network. The town of Eagle, us up in Northwest Colorado Broadband, we had already outgrown our 10 gig network and we're needing to expand. It was going to cost us a lot of money. And actually, by partnering with all these other green dots on here, we actually got a 200 gig ring into Steamboat Springs cheaper than what we would have done on our own. And so we're paying our bills are less now than they were when we were doing it on our own with 10 gigs. So this partnership proved successful, but it's not easy. Because you have to work with entities that you're not used to working with. So that takes time. You have to build the trust. You have to see how that person operates. What can you do to help them? What can I do to help them? So you really have to keep that mindset of the greater good. And with that greater good, sometimes I pay more and I get less. And sometimes somebody else pays more and I get more and they get less through that partnership over time. It's what's I feel is needed, and we have to control our own destiny. In this rural parts of Colorado, it doesn't meet anybody's business model come up here and run a bunch of fiber and run a bunch of expensive lines because there's not enough return on their investment. So it takes us all working together to use some of those existing lines that they have, partner with the industry and rent those lines, and sometimes build your own if they won't work with you, and build a network like this. This network right here, I know, is being highly looked at throughout the country as something that be cookie cuttered, replicated, not only within the state, but other states throughout the country. So that's really all I had here. And like I said, we're going out to bid again here real soon. That THOR network, we're 3 years old. We need to rebid our internet so that they're going to join the CEBC bid. That's what's going to take us to the 100 gigs of internet. So that's roughly 30 to 50 gigs of internet from THOR, another 30 to 70 gigs of internet from the school districts. And anybody can join that bid that we're putting out right now. So in the coming years, you'll hopefully be a member of that bid. And the beauty of that bid is we just bid for you. And then you choose whether you like it or not. And if we get a better price than you going on your own, then you use our contract. And if you don't, you use your own contract. So you still work with the entity on your own, the ISP. And it's a win-win for everybody. It really is. And as a public employee, as a school district employee, I do this all just because of my knowledge. I don't have a separate company. None of us do that. Any of the names you saw in here, we don't have separate companies. We're not making money. We're not an ISP business. All we do is we just work together to fatten our pipes for something we would have done together for ourselves anyways, and we just let other people use it. And we just collect enough money to pay for the fees of the network. And it's as simple as that.
So we want to go ahead and open it up for questions and answers from Tim. If you have a question, you can either put it in the chat or go ahead and raise your hand and I can unmute you. It's always a good sign, Tim, when nobody has any questions. That means you did a thorough job. So we'll give
there's
it
nobody out there.
yeah, there's some folks out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you don't have any questions, we'll go ahead and end the lunch and learn for today. We do want to thank you, Tim, for coming out and sharing your experience. Well, one of the things we've tried to do this year with the Colorado Broadband office, and especially through the lunch and learn, is just talk about all the different projects that are currently going on, or all the lessons learned. And you've given us 3 solid examples of, starting with nothing or very little, and, making the things happen that you need to bring better broadband in education. So I do appreciate your time today. We appreciate everyone joining us for the lunch and learn. And just want to remind you that my name is Ed Mills. I am with the Colorado Broadband office. And if there's anything we can ever do for you, we're here to serve you and connect you with the right folks. So anyway, if there are no questions, and I still don't see any, we'll go ahead and conclude for today. Thank you, Tim. We appreciate your time and experience. And we'll see you at the next lunch and learn.
Thank you.